first up we have, of course, Will Smith. Probably the most infamous Oscars moments of the last decade was when Will Smith went up on stage to slap host Chris Rock after he made a joke about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. In 2022, Will received a 10-year ban from the Academy, which means he definitely will not be attending this year's award show. Celebrities had their own opinions on the whole slapping ordeal. Mila Kunis told C Magazine in 2022 that she was stunned that so many people in the audience at the 2022 Academy Awards stood up when he won his Oscar after he already slapped Chris. Not standing up to me was a no-brainer, but what was shocking to me was how many people did stand up, she said. I thought, wow, what a time we're living in, that rather than do what's right, people focus on doing what looks good. It's insane to me. Jada Pinkett Smith, who has been married to Will for nearly 25 years, finally broke her silence on the altercation in June 2022 on an episode of her Facebook Watch series Red Table Talk. My deepest hope is that these two intelligent, capable men have an opportunity to heal, talk this out, and reconcile, the Scream 2 star said at the time. The state of the world today, we need them both, and we all actually need one another more than ever. She also noted that she has Will's back in the aftermath of the scandal, adding, until then, Will and I are continuing to do what we have done for the last 28 years, and that is to keep figuring out this thing called life together. Our next Oscars banned celebrity is the late actor Carmine Corradi. He is best known for small parts in the last two films in the Godfather trilogy and was handed a lifetime ban in 2004 for illegally circulating VHS copies of that year's Contenders that he had been sent as an Academy voter. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Corradi opened up about the situation, admitting that he got busted because he made the mistake of lending out his tapes, something he claims, quote, everybody did. A guy from the Academy called and says, Carmine, did somebody steal your screeners? Because they found them on the internet, Corradi recalled. And they called somebody and said, hey, what did you do? I'm in trouble here. While the case was investigated by the FBI and Corradi was hit with a copyright infringement lawsuit by Sony and Warner Brothers, he was eventually cleared of all his wrongdoings. The Academy wasn't so forgiving and maintained that he had violated his agreement to safeguard their screeners. Next up we have Bill Cosby. A month after Bill was convicted of a in 2018, the Academy issued a permanent ban against him. Shortly after, Bill Cosby, who was once regarded as America's dad for his role in the sitcom The Cosby Show, was convicted in the case with ex-basketball player Andrea Constand in 2018. The Academy announced their decision to ban him in accordance with its newly reviewed standards of conduct. In an official statement, the Academy said, quote, the board continues to encourage ethical standards that require members to uphold the Academy's values of respect for human dignity. Cosby, who served 3 years in prison before having his conviction overturned, never publicly reacted to the Academy's decision. The 85-year-old comedian is now facing more charges after 5 women filed another lawsuit against him in December 2022. Richard Gere is another famous actor who participated in a controversial Oscars incident, one which led to the Academy's decision to ban him from the entire awards. Back in 1993, Richard used his platform while presenting an award to criticize the Chinese government. His decision to not follow the script did not sit well with the Academy, who banned the famous actor for as many as 2 decades for changing his speech. Studios are interested in the possibility of making huge profits, he told GQ, but I'm still making the same films that I was making when I started. Small, interesting, character-driven, and narrative-driven stories. It has not impacted my life at all. Richard returned to the Oscars in 2013 when he joked by telling Huffington Post that apparently, I've been rehabilitated. It seems if you stay around long enough, they forget that they have banned you. Taylor Swift will likely not be attending this year's Oscars despite being asked to join the Academy last year, alongside fellow singer The Weeknd. Taylor has an Eras Tour performance in Singapore on March 9th, the day before this year's Academy Awards. And that would be a very long flight tight and quick turnaround to make it in time. Recent Taylor Swift news includes an NFL player alleging she got enemy Kanye West kicked out of the Super Bowl 2 weeks ago. During the 2024 Super Bowl, Taylor Swift appeared on TV more than some of the players as the cameras kept cutting to her in her suite, filled with friends and the family of her boyfriend Travis Kelce, who was playing on the field. Plenty of other celebs were in attendance as well, including her rival Kanye West. According to a famous football player, the pop and country singer may have requested that the hip-hop musician be removed from the game entirely. One-time NFL player Brandon Marshall stated in his podcast Paper Route that Taylor may have been the reason that Kanye left the Super Bowl. Marshall tells an odd story on the latest episode of his series, one which even his co-host had not heard, explaining what happened between the two stars according to him, that is. So Kanye West pulls up to the Super Bowl. Kanye West buys a ticket right in front of Taylor Swift's booth, Marshall said on Paper Route. He also said that the rapper may have done so to make sure that anytime they were going to be showing Taylor on camera, Kanye's face was going to be there instead. Marshall went on to explain that Kanye had a mask on, which he called typical Kanye. The former football player then guessed that based on West's appearance, Taylor Swift gets angry. He then added, without seemingly any confirmation that the Grammy winner makes a call or two, everyone's involved, before adding that Kanye then gets kicked out of the stadium after her call. Now back to the Oscars. Jennifer Lawrence has been banned from the Oscars for her 2013 tripping on her dress moment. Just kidding, but it was incredibly embarrassing. When accepting her Oscar for Silver Linings Playbook, she tripped over her dress on the stage stairs on the way up to collect her award. In typical Jennifer Lawrence style, she laughed about it all before falling over on the red carpet the next year. In an interview with W Magazine, she says, "I was at the Oscars waiting to hear if my name was called, and I kept thinking, cakewalk, cakewalk, cakewalk. I thought, why is cakewalk stuck in my head? And then as I started to walk up the stairs and the fabric from my dress tucked under my feet, I realized my stylist had told me cakewalk, cakewalk, cakewalk. You're supposed to kick the dress out while you walk, and I totally forgot because I was thinking about cake, and that is why I fell." Another Oscars moment that raised concern was when the wrong movie was named Best Picture. When Faye Dunaway and Warren Beatty announced the winner for Best Picture, they mistakenly said it was La La Land. But it was in fact Moonlight that had won. In a supremely cringe-inducing moment, Beatty was pushed aside as the correct slip of paper was brandished at the cameras desperately. It turns out Beatty had been given the Best Actress envelope instead of the Best Picture envelope, and Emma Stone won for La La Land. Hence the awkward mix-up. When Angelina Jolie won the Best Supporting Actress Oscar in 2000 for her role in Girl Interrupted, she caught the attention of viewers around the world when she kissed her brother. That's right, her biological brother, on the lips. Angelina's mom, Marshalene's close friend, who helped take care of the actress as a child, has opened up about the whole event, claiming it was nothing more than sisterly love. The day she kissed Jamie at the Oscars, she says it was the first day that their mom was treated for cancer. They left the hospital together and got ready together, she told Radar Online. No one in the world knew that they spent the day in the hospital. It was like, look where we are at now. But the world saw something in it was meant to be, here we are. They only ever had each other. They had a very tight relationship with each other and their mother, she says. Our next awkward Oscars moment includes John Travolta. When announcing Idina Menzel to the stage, Travolta called her Adele Dazeem. John Travolta explained to Jimmy Kimmel what had caused the awkward gaffe, saying that he was shoved on stage 15 minutes early, and the assistant told him at the last second that Idina's name had been changed to the phonetic spelling on the card. When John got on stage to announce, he had not been able to rehearse and stared at the card thinking, what is this name? I don't know this name. Luckily, Idina found it hilarious and even introduced John as Glom Gazingo at the Oscars the following year as a joke. Lastly, we have Rob Lowe. In 1989, perhaps the strangest Oscars moment occurred when an actress playing Snow White performed randomly on stage. The entire 11-minute performance performance shows Disney princess Snow White attending the Oscars and was incredibly weird for people to watch. What was even weirder was when actor Rob Lowe appeared on stage to sing a duet with the princess. Rob opened up to the New York Times about the whole debacle in 1992, saying, "Look, the Academy asked me to take that role, so I was a good soldier and I did it. You can't be your own manager and agent and soothsayer. You have to take risks." And on that one, I got shot in the foot.
First up, we have Saoirse Ronan and the awkward mistake. As a journalist, it's your job to get facts as correct as possible, but sometimes during certain circumstances, it's easy to get lost in the sauce. At the 2016 Oscars red carpet, an ABC News journalist was speaking to Saoirse when she had stopped to wave at someone, who happened to be writer Nick Hornby, who she had worked with for the film Brooklyn. She was nominated for Best Actress for her role in said film. The reporter confused the small interaction as something between family members and assumed Hornby was her father. When asked, Ronan obviously confirmed that he was the writer and not her father. It was a mild slip-up and not a big deal because, things like that happen. Honestly, this taught me to never assume and stick to my script or whatever to avoid any awkward run-ins like that. Next in line, we have Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Seacrest. Johansson was being interviewed at the 2017 Oscars red carpet when she was asked about her shoes. To clarify, Seacrest was asking if she had worn the heels she was wearing to the Oscars rehearsals that they have for the presenters. She responded with, "What a ridiculous question to ask," as it seemed to be so random for her. But Seacrest explained that he was asking because he had heard that fellow actress Halle Berry had done it. She accepted his response and continued to explain that she did not wear the heels, opting for comfortability. Up next is interviewer Jess Cagle calling Hidden Figures by the wrong name. It was around this time in 2017 when people were calling Hidden Figures Hidden Fences. The mistake started back at the Golden Globes when the movie Hidden Figures and Fences, very separate movies, were said in the same sentence, and that's how the mistake was made. The internet was already preparing themselves for reporters to make that same mistakes at the Oscars, and they were right. Editor-in-chief of People magazine, Jess Cagle messed it up when trying to compliment it as extraordinary alongside the film Moonlight, and was quick to correct himself, but it happened, and Twitter was there for it. Coming up is Tiffany Haddish's ultimate fangirl moment. So imagine you're at the Oscars and your idol is there. What do? Would you wait until they're within your closest vicinity, or do you seek them out? Tiffany Haddish was a woman on a mission as she wanted to greet Meryl Streep. In a video taken at the 90th Academy Awards, you can see Haddish waiting outside of the rope that was meant for the designated red carpet. With Streep just meters away, she probably contemplated her options before just going for it and climbing over the rope. I forgot to mention she was in a beautiful long gown as well, so to be able to witness that in real time must have been hilarious. Streep was seemingly preoccupied as Haddish steps in and literally blocks her path. The two make eye contact and they hug while exchanging words that are hard to make out. But nevertheless, Haddish got to have her chance with Streep and it was everything. I know some people would think this to be rude, which is why I included it, but hey, you do it too. Next on the list is Sacha Baron Cohen and his urn. Cohen arrived at the red carpet dressed head to toe in his costume for his character Admiral General Aladdin. He arrived with staff personnel, 2 women who were obviously paid actors, and a cremation urn. Aside from his outfit, he was also completely in character too. That method acting really helping him out here. He was being interviewed by Ryan Seacrest, and Seacrest played into the bit as well. As he explained why he brought the urn, he inconspicuously lifted it and let it spill all over Seacrest. Clearly, it was a setup, probably some sort of marketing strategy from the movie's team. Up next again is Tiffany Haddish and her interview. She looked stunning in her custom-made green gown when a reporter asked if she had done a costume change. Perhaps slightly put off by the term costume, Haddish goes off to explain that it was not a costume but a luxury Dolce & Gabbana gown. The reality of the awkwardness sets in as the reporter tries to stealthily move on, but Haddish wants to reaffirm herself. She continues saying, "It's called an evening gown, darling." Watching the clip, you can tell the reporter regrets everything as she continues to play cool and admits defeat, but the damage was done and Haddish was not. She explained that the dress was paid by herself and that was what success looked like. Coming up is Zuri Hall blanking out at the red carpet. Like I said, the hustle and bustle of these types of events are the partial reasons why reporters tend to mess things up. And it's fine, we're all human here, which is why I think E! News reporter Zuri Hall can back me up on that statement. She arrived at the 2017 Oscars red carpet in a beautiful sheer and feathery dress. Perhaps it was so beautiful she ended up forgetting who actually designed it. Is it disrespectful to forget the name of the designer? I think it's an honest mistake, but that doesn't take away the minor embarrassment she probably felt while that was televised across national television. Up next, we have Ashley Graham's interview with Jason Momoa and Lisa Bonet. Momoa and his wife showed up to the 2019 Oscar Awards when it happened. When they were interviewed by model Ashley Graham, she requested that he give her a haka move. Haka refers to the many ceremonial dances from the Maori people. Momoa is immediately hesitant, and it doesn't go unnoticed by Graham as she eggs him on to do it. Bonet is clearly unimpressed, offering some type of explanation that you can't hear what she's saying, but her husband cuts it off and gives Graham what she wants. The internet was not happy with this exchange. One user called her corny, while many others said that she was disrespecting his culture as he is from Hawaii and not New Zealand, where the Maori culture originates. At least he's familiar with some of the customs though, as he explained in a completely separate interview unrelated to the Oscars that his family's roots go back and forth from Hawaii and New Zealand at some point. Regardless, Graham pushing him to do that wasn't a good look for her. Coming up are the South Park creators and their red carpet looks. Creators of the hit cartoon comedy, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, confessed to everything that went down that evening in the year 2000. To put it shortly, they did not take anything seriously, despite Parker being nominated for an award. The original plan was to dress up in duck costumes, but out of fear they would be denied entry, they went for dresses to blend in with everyone else. So that's what they did. They dressed up in their dresses that were nods off to outfits Jennifer Lopez and Gwyneth Paltrow had worn previously, and to top it all off, were also extremely under the influence. They explained even stepping out of the vehicle was an experience due to their incapacitated state. They managed to get through the carpet and the interviews. They were smart and had it all planned out, vowing that they don't acknowledge the dresses, and if they were asked to divert and avoid it at all costs. Next up is Dakota Johnson, low-key snapping at her mom. During the 2015 Academy Awards, Johnson brings her mother, fellow actress Melanie Griffith, as her date. Knowing Johnson and her collected bluntness, what happened shouldn't come off as surprising. While they were being interviewed together, Griffith was asked if she had watched her daughter's movie. She declined, saying it would be strange. The movie in question? 50 Shades of Grey, and we're all aware of the nature of that film. So to not want to see it for those reasons as a mother, it's totally understandable. Johnson cuts in and said it would be fine and she'll watch it one day. After all, it's just a movie since everything is fictional. When the reporter accepts this answer and reaffirms how well her daughter did in the film, Griffith continues and says, well, she's a really good actress, I don't need to see it to know how good she is, which sparked mild irritation from Johnson, who gets a little snappy and says she doesn't need to watch it. It's kind of awkward for the reporter as she comes in to soothe the awkward family interaction. While it might have been awkward to watch it unfold, mother-daughter bickering is more common than you'd think.
Starting off our list today at number 10, we have Chris Rock. Not only did Chris Rock destroy his career in 2022 with his horrible Oscar hosting job, you think the Academy wouldn't have hired him to host the ceremony, as back in 2005 he had another pretty controversial show, as not only did he make a comment about straight black men never watching the Oscars only a month before the show, he actually tried to cover it up by stating the LGBTQ community only watches the Tonys, which would cause a handful of people to call the star out and urge the Academy to replace him as the host that year. But still, the show went on with him as the host, and to be honest, his opening monologue just wasn't even that funny, and his whole performance was just really bland and loud. And if things couldn't get any more worse, later in the night things got extremely awkward as Chris went on to make a comment about Jude Law when he said, "You want Tom Cruise, and all you get is Jude Law." The statement didn't sit well with a few people in the crowd, and when Sean Penn then took the stage to present Best Actress, he would then tell Chris Rock off and say that Jude was one of the generation's finest actors. Number 9, Anne Hathaway and James Franco. If one thing's for sure, Anne Hathaway doesn't deserve to be on this list today, but because she had to MC with James Franco and he failed at his hosting job, she unfortunately has to be on this list today. From the very beginning of the night, it looked like James just didn't want to be up on the stage and he was waiting for the whole event to be over, which which was strange as you think the actor would have been a little more excited as he was also nominated for an Oscar that year, but he still didn't want to be there. So to make up for his co-star's lack of energy, Anne had to try her best to keep the show afloat. Unfortunately, tipping into her over-the-top energy caused a lot of the viewers to cringe. But I still don't know what's worse, the fact that they had zero chemistry on the stage, or the fact Anne opened up the ceremony by saying, "My gosh, you're all real." Later, James would even acknowledge how bad his presence was by telling David Letterman, "I've thought about it. I think I know why I bombed. I love her, but Anne Hathaway is so energetic. I think the Tasmanian devil would look stoned standing next to Anne Hathaway." Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to that channel. Number 8. Seth MacFarlane. To be honest, I don't think any of us could really understand why the Academy would ask Seth MacFarlane to host the Oscars in the first place, as his brand of humor in his Family Guy show is very controversial. So they should have known that his performance was going to get on a lot of people's nerves. Now Seth definitely proved that he could sing when he performed in his opening number, but he chose to do it in such a controversial way as he decided to write a very misogynistic set that revolved around seeing actresses who have stripped down on scene for their roles, as Seth went on to sing about how he has seen certain actors' chest. He then went on to mention everyone from Meryl Streep and Naomi Watts, and you could see their faces all fall in the heartbreaking slow moment. He also enlisted an entire choir of men to help him humiliate the woman he named in his song, and when the cameras finally panned over to Charlize Theron, her unimpressed face would say it all. Not to mention, he also went on to make jokes about how women were getting themselves sick just so they could stay in shape for the award show, as well as cracking jokes about the infamous Rihanna and Chris Brown altercation, which just wasn't cool. Number 7. Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen's first Oscar hosting gig in 2007 was an utter mess, as it was nothing like the lovable performance she put on in 2014. Maybe her first time around was just missing all the selfies and pizza. However, with saying that, it isn't really Ellen's fault her performance as a host didn't do so well, as prior to hosting the Oscars, she previously hosted 3 Emmy Awards, and she did such a great job doing so. So when the Oscar ratings were down, the Academy brought in Ellen so she could bring in a different demographic, but by doing so it seems like it was just a little too forced, as she just kept rambling on and her points just fell very flat throughout the night. Even her overall style didn't seem to fit in with the Oscars, and there was a point where she even mentioned the Oscars was going green and that she was going to recycle some of her old jokes, and she actually took that to heart. It seemed like she made the night a little too much about herself and didn't really focus on the films and the actors that were up for consideration that night. Number 6. David Letterman. It's no lie that David Letterman was at his peak in 1995, but just a couple years earlier he was actually passed over for the Tonight Show gig that was vacated at the time by Johnny Carson. So David instead went to sign his own deal for his own show on CBS, and he actually was beating Jay Leno's late night ratings by a decent margin, so he became the perfect choice to lead the Oscars, well, after both Whoopi Goldberg and Billy Crystal declined to host the event first. Now David has always had this very dry sense of humor, and it didn't exactly translate well when he was hosting the Oscars, with his opening monologue being extremely boring, to listening to Uma Thurman and Oprah's opening skit was also just very odd and out of place to watch. David just couldn't get his style of work to fit in the right way like Johnny Carson did before him. It also didn't help that he also told the audience at one point to pay attention. At the end, David took all the heat he was receiving in stride, and he even went on to make fun of himself when he returned to his regular job by saying the Oscars even asked him to perform again. Crazy. Number 5, we have Chevy Chase. Hopes were definitely high when Chevy Chase was asked to host the 1988 Oscars, as the year prior he shared the stage with Goldie Hawn and Paul Hogan, and he did such an amazing job. So you would think that he would be able to host the award show by himself, but that just wasn't the case. Now, when a host opens a show saying, "Good evening, Hollywood phonies," you're definitely not in for a good night, and it just seems like Chevy, as the host that night, just kept dragging it on, and everyone watching watching was just praying it would all be over soon, especially when he realized his jokes weren't funny anymore and they weren't getting laughs. He just turned to this gross humor and it made us all cringe. Chevy got to the point where he was just acting completely ridiculous, like when he dropped his pants when Paul Newman took the stage to present the award for Best Actress. And when that didn't get the laughs he was hoping for, he just made some bad ad-libbing attempts, and he was seen picking his nose and sneezing into his hand, and that just wasn't funny. Number 4, Donald Duck. Now there's probably a reason when you think of Disney characters, you never think of Donald Duck, and that's probably because he completely butchered the 1958 Oscar ceremony. So Donald Duck wasn't the only one who hosted the ceremony, as there was a handful of hosts that year. But it was Donald Duck hosting abilities that definitely caused a huge amount of disappointment to come from viewers watching the show. So 1958 was a big year for the Oscars, as this was the first time the show had ever been broadcasted live. The Academy also sponsored the event, so that meant there was no commercials, meaning they had to hire multiple hosts as nobody really had the time to take a break. Being that there was already 5 other hosts, you would think they would be able to handle things on their own, but the Academy was still trying to figure out how to throw something extra in there for us, so they decided Donald Duck. Maybe it's because they felt like they owed the fictional character a spot due to him being a former Oscar winner, or maybe they were just a little ahead of their time and wanted to get edgy by featuring a host who doesn't wear pants. But honestly, they probably should have known better, and it would have gone better if Mickey hosted the event instead. Number 3, Rob Lowe. After Rob Lowe's performance, it made a lot of sense to why the Academy decided to stick to a host-free format for years, as it was an attempt to make sure other award shows didn't turn out to be a complete nightmare like the show did in 1989. When Grease producer Alan Carr was put in charge of delivering an opening number, not only would he have Snow White in it, but also Rob Lowe. And when they took the stage, Rob would go on to sing and flirt with Snow White throughout the entire performance, but it also didn't help that he was introduced as Disney's character's blind date. Later, Disney's president, Frank Wells, would call out the Academy for this poor performance, and he would tell them that he was extremely unhappy for what they did with Snow White's character. Rob also would tell the New York Times, "Look, the Academy asked me to take the role, so I was a good soldier and did it. You can't be your own manager and agent and soothsayer. You have to take risks." But maybe you shouldn't have taken that one. Number 2, Neil Patrick Harris. In 2015, Neil Patrick Harris, who is known for his roles in the hit series How I Met Your Mother or the Harold and Kumar franchise, got a chance to host the Oscars, and honestly, his performance as an MC for the event received a lot of mixed reviews, as his abilities to do the job just wasn't that great. Now, while the star's jokes were funny, as he is funny, he kind of pushed it a little too far as he poked fun at his own career, as the star then came out in his own underwear later on in the show to spoof Birdman and show off his songs and dance skills, with some help from Anna Kendrick. But the overall performance would have critics fuming, as they thought his opening was just bland. The only thing most people actually found enjoyable to watch weren't his jokes, but more his political speeches, as they were more entertaining to watch than his skits were. And if you prefer to hear about politics more than you want to watch a skit, you know there's a problem, because let's face it, no one likes politics. And coming in number 1 today, we have Frank Sinatra. So Frank Sinatra actually had the chance to MC the Oscars twice. The first time around, he got the chance to MC the event by himself in 1963, and he did an amazing job, so it wasn't really surprising that the Academy would ask him to come back to the show to MC again, and this time he got on the stage with Sammy Davis Jr., Bob Hope, and Shirley MacLaine. However, his second time as an Oscar host was definitely a tense one, as during this telecasted event, he and his co-host faced some major controversy when filmmaker Bert Schneider read a telegram from a Vietnam diplomat. This then prompted angry viewers to send in telegrams of their own, so mid-show, after fighting with Shirley about making his own statement, Frank would take to the stage to read a disclaimer by Bob Hope, in which he said the Academy was not responsible for the political views that were expressed on the program. But when it comes to politics, sometimes it's just best not to say anything, as people take these conversations very heavily, and it drives a lot of us nuts. So starting off our list today at number 10, we have Chris Rock makes more Will Smith jokes. In the last 10 minutes of his live Netflix special, Chris Rock went on to address the Oscar slap, and honestly, it has a lot of us scratching our heads, because he waited over a year to say anything, and it just seems a little too calculated, because I don't think he's done yet. As Chris spent much of his 70-minute set alluding to the slap before he went on a rant about how Will Smith practices selective outrage. He then went on to recap, well, his marital troubles with his wife Jada Pinkett Smith, and in the years leading up before noting everyone called Smith a B for going public with his wife's cheating scandal. It's clear that Chris Rock is done taking the high route like he did in the beginning of the scandal, and Chris being so open with the events now, it just seems like he bottled up all of his anger about the incident and he's ready to explode just like Will Smith did at the last Oscars. So we could see Chris make the wrong move at this Academy Awards show. Number 9, Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck. After Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez were caught looking a little gloomy and out of place at the Grammys, it makes you wonder what the Oscars could have in store for the couple. Like, will Ben be attending the Oscars or will he be watching the show at home in his sweatpants? But honestly, anything is possible with this couple. What is for sure though is that Jennifer definitely doesn't want any more questions about her relationship with Ben and what it's like behind closed doors any longer. So we're definitely going to see the couple pack on the PDA if they actually decide to attend the ceremony this year, so they can convince the public that there's no trouble in paradise. And if Ben is caught looking a tad gloomy, we can expect Jennifer to be a little less than impressed with the fact. We might just see her lose her cool and tell Ben again to look friendly and motivated before she storms off and leaves the show. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8, Rihanna's performance. 2023 has definitely been a big year for Rihanna so far, and the year has only just begun. Not only did Rihanna have the chance to put on a stunning Super Bowl halftime show where she announced her second pregnancy, but fresh off her Super Bowl halftime performance, the pregnant star will be singing her Oscar-nominated song Lift Me Up from Marvel's Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Honestly, Rihanna's probably gonna take home the Oscar during the awards ceremony, and the world is wondering what her performance could be like at the Oscars and who it may upset this time around. With the FCC receiving more than 100 complaints about Rihanna's Super Bowl performance, many have labeled it not only as boring to watch but also too sexy for television. It really makes you wonder what this pop star could have up her sleeve for the show, and if she's going to use her performance to give one giant F off to the people who didn't understand the concept of her Super Bowl show. What is for sure though is Rihanna is probably going to go all out for this performance, and she's going to drive all her Super Bowl haters nuts in the process. Number 7, Tom Cruise calls out his snub. Sometimes it's probably better not to gloat too hard or you might not go as far to the top as you thought. So remember how a few months ago Tom Cruise was gloating that he was back on top while his rival in the acting industry was at the bottom of the charts? With Tom's film Top Gun Maverick being a success in the box office, it brought in over $1.3 billion worldwide, and it would make the film the second highest grossing film in 2022 and the highest grossing film of Tom Cruise's career. Even with the film getting Best Picture nomination and a bevy of nods in technical categories, the blockbuster Top Gun sequel was shut out in Best Director. It also missed nomination for Best Cinematography, which it had widely been predicted to win, but most shockingly, Tom Cruise was also snubbed of a Best Actor nomination. If the film wins any type of award on the night of the Oscars, which honestly for the categories it was nominated in is really slim, but if it does, we will see Tom Cruise take the stage and address his snub and other snubs the film faced. Number 6, Johnny Depp clashes with the director. So back in December, after Johnny finally returned to the acting scene, his name would hit the tabloids as media outlets all over the world started to state that the actor was going back to his old ways and how he should be behaving himself from getting such negative press reviews. In an article posted by Lifestyle, the media outlet would explain that since Johnny got back into what he loves doing the most, acting, his on-set behavior has been pretty problematic, with reports stating that Johnny, while he was on the set of John DeBerry, he was extremely rude not only to the director of the film, Mywin Lebesco, but also to his co-stars and crew. But it could have actually all been Mywin's fault, as apparently the two only clashed with each other because Mywin was a little petty, with reports stating that Johnny started falling back into his old habits after the director and him started screaming at each other. Inside sources would then reveal the whole problem started after Johnny was late for a set and Mywin freaked out at him, and then the next day Johnny would be on time and the director wouldn't even show up. So if these two cross paths during the show, we're definitely going to see some tension, and we're all going to see Johnny address the rumors once and for all while dragging Mywin's name through the mud. Number 5, Jimmy Kimmel's take things a little too far. Okay, so the Oscars hasn't even started and it already seems like Jimmy Kimmel is taking things a little too far as he started making comments about last year's events, especially the infamous slapping incident, and it makes you wonder what he's going to do for this year's show. With Jimmy outlining that if someone was to walk on stage and slap him this year, Jimmy would say he would size up the person before getting into a physical altercation with them on television, but if it was The Rock walking up on the stage, he would just run away. I mean, as a celebrity, you do have the power to address certain situations, but when they condone violence, it's probably better just to keep them in your head. Throughout the night, I'm sure we'll see Jimmy make many jokes about what happened at last year's ceremony, as he's probably already running through all the scenarios he could have fun with for the infamous incident during the event, especially since he's already labeling himself as an unflappable and unslappable host. We already know the night is going to be pushed into jokes that go a little too far, and they may upset a lot of people in the audience. Number 4, James Corden tells someone how to do their job. With James Corden already thinking he's on top of the world and that no one can damage his career, he's become pretty unpredictable over the last year as he's made some pretty poor choices that have resulted in him becoming one of the most hated celebrities in the world. It seems like the once humble comedian let the fame go a little too far to his head, and now he just doesn't view people as, human beings, more as objects that were made to serve him and not make mistakes. With the comedian recently finding himself being banned from Keith McNally's restaurant, the world would be shocked when Keith took aim at James by calling him a tiny cretin of a man just after James was rude, dismissive, and nasty to his restaurant staff. Keith also labeled the late night host as one of the most abusive customers his staff has ever had to serve. So James pretty much got angry when his wife's omelet wasn't made right, and he told the server they couldn't do their job and that he should just go into the kitchen and cook the omelet himself. So with the way things could go, if someone just bumps into James or a seat filler takes his seat when he leaves for 5 seconds, James could just lose it again and tell someone how to do their job right. Number 3, Jamie Lynn Spears battles to save her career. So the word on the block is even after Jamie Lynn Spears was called out by her sister Britney Spears for making her life a living hell like the rest of her family did, somehow she got another acting job in Zoe 101 as it's coming back. So recently Paramount announced that they have officially started production on Zoe 102, which is a sequel film to Zoe 101, Nickelodeon's iconic series. So ahead of the film premiering, we know that Jamie Lynn is going to want to get as much press as she can, so she's going to make an appearance at a bunch of events and maybe just the Oscars to get fans to stop talking about her ongoing drama with Britney and start talking about her new film, Zoe 102. However, making an Oscar appearance could damage the star's career even further, as the world still isn't over the fact that she thought it was okay to talk about how hard her life was growing up in the shadow of her famous older sister, or the fact that it was also released that she bullied one of her co-stars on Zoe 101 to the point she had the rest of the cast even shut this girl out. And now she's getting a reboot, which just isn't okay, but now it seems like she's just crying to jump on the Me Too movement so fans can forget about her poor behavior. But if she makes an appearance at the Oscars, it's just gonna prove that she never really learned how to grow up. Number 2, Shia LaBeouf beefs with Olivia Wilde. Remember how Olivia Wilde said she had to fire Shia LaBeouf for feuding with Florence Pugh? And then we all learned from Shia that this just wasn't the case. Okay, so we all know that there's a lot of rumors surrounding the set of the film Don't Worry Darling. And while at first Olivia Wilde tried to label Shia as the initial problem when it came to the set's feuds, Shia would then come out to prove that this just wasn't the case when he came out to say that he wasn't fired and he had to quit the film because Olivia had her actors on these crazy schedules, so they didn't even have time to rehearse with Shia. But the drama between the two just got worse from there, as Shia then started to share messages where Olivia was seen making fun of her leading lady, Florence Pugh. And with Olivia still trying to throw all the problems with the set at Shia, he's gone a little too quiet when it comes to the issue, which could be highlighting that he's waiting to run into the star in person to tell her how it really is. And it could be because he's waiting for a public event to show the world how Olivia really acts in person. And what event would be any more perfect than the Oscars. And coming in at number 1 today, we have a Kanye West type moment. So the fact that Viola Davis was not nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role has a lot of us kicking the air right now. And with it, we are definitely going to see a Kanye-like moment like the time he stormed the stage when Taylor Swift won her award for Best Video by a Female Artist. And when he took the mic from her and told her, "Taylor, I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time." Well, I'm sorry for the poor actress who wins the Best Actress in a Leading Role award, but your moment is going to be cut short as someone's definitely going to storm the stage, take the mic, and tell you that you did a good job, which honestly you did, so give yourself a big pat on the back. But you didn't deserve to win Best Leading Actress as Viola Davis had an outstanding performance, and the fact that the Oscars snubbed her from achieving the title is a sin. So while you're making your speech, the first thing you should do is acknowledge her snub and her hard work, or expect someone to pull a Kanye and tell you how it really is. So starting off our list today at number 10, we have Rachel Zegler. Sometimes it's probably better to stay quiet about certain issues, and that was definitely the case when it comes to Rachel Zegler. So if you don't recall, just before last year's ceremony, Rachel would find herself not being invited to the show, and in the process she went on to shade the Academy for it. Eventually the Academy wanted to make things right, so they asked her to join presenter Jacob Elordi on the stage. However, once she got on the stage, she decided to shade the Academy once more by saying, "Dreams do come true," really fast. Her comment was definitely a reference to her post that she made just a week before the show when she responded to a fan who said, "Can't wait to see what you'll be wearing to the Oscars." Rachel then responded by saying, "I'm not invited, so sweatpants and my boyfriend's flannel." After an outcry spread across social media, the actor would explain that she tried every method possible to score a ticket, but she was unsuccessful. Well, at least she did make it to the show, but that will probably be the last show she can attend for a while. Number 9, Chris Rock. You know, Chris Rock probably should have scored himself a ticket to this year's Oscar ceremony if he just did one thing: be a better man and let everything in the past remain in the past. After a year of remaining silent about the incident that occurred in 2022, he has finally opened up about the incident, and I'm going to be honest, his comments should have come right away. Coming a complete year after the incident occurred is uncalled for and just a little bit childish, especially since he's chosen to take the high road for so long, and now everything just seems a little too calculated and not right. And if the Oscars wants to eliminate any drama from this year's show, they should be asking Chris Rock not to attend. In preparation for Chris Rock's upcoming special on Netflix, the comedian is set to talk about the incident that dominated much of the headlines last year. According to Wall Street Journal, the comedian's references how much it hurt, and he also pokes fun at Will Smith when he quipped, even in animated movies, "I'm a zebra and he's an effing shark." But to make fun of the incident isn't really funny, and Will had to even go through therapy, so this just isn't okay, and Chris should honestly just do better. Hey my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Number 8, Russell Crowe. Even though Russell Crowe is an Oscar-winning actor, director, and musician, we probably won't be seeing him at this year's Grammys ceremony. And it's not really surprising, as Russell's temper has made more than a few headlines over the years, and since nobody really knows if the actor can truly behave himself, as the actor's temper has landed him in hot water, he ended up getting a felony charge for it. So Russell's temper has had a reputation for years, as he has a tendency to take things a little too far, and his reputation has now earned him a reputation as an actor who is difficult to work with. So back in 2004, Russell's behavior would completely be out of hand after he got riled up in a hotel lobby, and he ended up injuring a clerk behind the lobby desk. Then in 2016, Azealia Banks even filed a police report accusing Russell's violence to be excessive, as he once spit on her. And back in 2002, he even shoved Malcolm Gary against a wall and cursed him out because of his acceptance speech being cut too short. So why would the Academy risk inviting someone who could cause another Chris Rock and Will Smith altercation? Number 7, Ben Affleck. Well, it's definitely not the Academy banning Ben Affleck from the ceremony this year, but it's most likely Jennifer Lopez trying to protect her husband from any more gloomy memes. As let's not forget, when we all sat down to watch the Grammys a couple weeks ago, Ben was captured a couple times on camera looking miserable. And then when we thought it couldn't get any worse, we then all saw JLo snap at her husband out of nowhere. But honestly, the whole show just looked like Ben was dragged to a work thing with his wife, and he truly had no interest in attending the event whatsoever. Now, with the Oscars just around the corner, J-Lo definitely doesn't want any more people questioning her and Ben's relationship. So she's probably gonna make sure Ben stays at home and watches the ceremony in his sweatpants for this moment, as the star just appears sad and J-Lo is done with the misinterpretation. Number 6, Sean Penn. When Sean Penn decided to get a little political last year at the Grammys, it kinda has him in a hot seat, as he promised to boycott the Academy if the Ukrainian president wasn't part of the show's program. But this hasn't been the actor's first controversial moment, as back in 2022 he doubled down on his comments that made fun of feminine men. When he sat down in an interview with The Independent, he would tell the newspaper, "I am in the club that believes that men in American culture have been widely feminized. I don't think that being a brute or having insensitivity or disrespect for women is anything to do with masculinity, or ever did. But I don't think in order to be fair to women, we should become them." When Sean was then asked to clarify his comments, he would then say, "I think men have, in my view, become quite feminized. I have these strong women in my life who do not take masculinity as a sign of oppression towards them. And with how the world is changing, the Academy just shouldn't allow people who don't adapt to change and accept others for who they are." Number 5, Morgan Freeman. In 2018, it would be brought to light that a young production assistant thought she had landed the job of her dreams when in the summer of 2015, she started working on Going in Style, a bank heist comedy starring Morgan Freeman, but the job then quickly developed into several months of harassment. She then later told CNN that Morgan subjected her to unwanted touching and comments about her figure and clothes on a near daily basis. She also claimed that Morgan constantly would rest his hands on her lower back or rub her lower back, and in one incident he even tried to pull up her skirt. And it said that Morgan's inappropriate behavior was not limited to that one movie set, because according to sources who spoke with CNN, a woman who was a senior member of the production staff of the movie Now You See Me in 2012 claimed that her and her female assistant on numerous occasions were approached by Morgan, who solicited comments about their bodies. And considering what happened last year, the Academy definitely wants a show that's quiet and no one really talks about, so we probably won't be seeing Morgan Freeman there this year. Number 4, Ricky Gervais. It's clear that Ricky Gervais will never be a host for the Oscars, as he's too much of a risk, even with the comedian himself revealing that he would never host the esteemed film award show because he wouldn't be allowed to do what he wanted. Now, Ricky has hosted the Golden Globes 5 times now, but he knows the rules would be very different for the Oscars, and he's just not interested in doing so, as he knows he would find himself being cancelled halfway through the show like other celebrities have. He continued to go on to say, "They'd never let me do what I wanted. That's why the Globes got me. They said I can write my own jokes, say what I want, no rehearsal. The Oscars would never. And if the Oscars said that, then I'd do it, but that would never happen." But they certainly let Chris Rock do it, so honestly it's probably best for Ricky to stay away from the mic and the show, as he might get a little controversial if he was invited. Number 3, Chris Brown. Back in 2022, Chris Brown would reveal the reason behind him not attending any award shows anytime soon, and that's because the Academy has banned him from being in attendance to any type of show going forward. The R&B superstar revealed that he's been banned from award shows, and he even made a revelation about it while he was sharing a video to his Instagram from one of his concerts in New Mexico, saying that he would have quit the industry a long time ago if it wasn't for his fans. But do you even have a lot of fans left to begin with? Despite his ability to sell out concerts not in Canada or America, may I add, not only will the Academy not let him attend the ceremony, but he is also not allowed to perform due to his violent behavior. Let's face it, he only got a Grammy nomination this year, not because his album was popping off, it was because the Grammys didn't want to deal with his wild outbursts from the star if he didn't receive a nomination in the first place, because the world still isn't over what he did to Rihanna and the other woman following. Number 2, Quentin Tarantino. When news broke that Quentin Tarantino convinced Uma Thurman into driving an unsafe car during the filming of Kill Bill, which resulted in a crash, the director would soon call it the biggest regret of his life. Soon after, reports soon started to come saying not only that, but that he also spat on Thurman during filming, and he even had a pretty physical altercation with her, and it said he also did the same thing to Diane Kruger in a scene in Inglourious Basterds. And with it, many people started to question whether clear it was time to cancel Quentin Tarantino or just not include him in the Oscars. Even with his film Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being very controversial, it provoked considerable unease as it would take on the gruesome subject following the passing of Sharon Tate, among others who fell into the hands of the Manson family. His interest in violence against women is just so strange and unusual, and by celebrating it, it would just be wrong. And coming in at number 1 today, we have Seth MacFarlane. If you watched the Oscars back in 2013, then you know the whole night was just a total call-off. Now, to have Seth MacFarlane host the Oscars, it was pretty shocking to begin with due to his animated show being pretty controversial. The Academy should have known that the night would have been pretty controversial to begin with. But with saying that, I don't think any of us saw the show being turned into complete misogyny after Seth decided he was going to prove that he could sing in his opening number. But with it, he did it in such a controversial way, as the comedian went on to showcase the most misogynistic song in history that he called "We Saw Your Chest," which named actresses who have stripped down for on-screen roles, mentioning every female from Meryl Streep to Naomi Watts. He also went on to enlist an entire choir of men to join in the rousing chorus. And if you caught the show, then you know Charlize Theron's face said it all when the cameras panned over to her and you could see her unimpressed face as she hid with her hand. To make matters even worse, he made jokes about women getting sick so they could get into shape for the awards show, as well as making Chris Brown and Rihanna jokes, which just wasn't cool, let's face it. Coming at number 10, we have Will Smith. So last year, actor Will Smith was issued a 10-year ban by the Film Academy after he disrupted the recent 94th Oscars by slapping presenter Chris Rock on the stage. The ban prohibits Smith from attending all Academy-related events, both virtual and in person, for a period of 10 years. It doesn't, however, make him ineligible for nominations at the Oscars. Smith had taken offense to a joke Chris made about his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, and he then walked up on the stage and in a shocking moment hit the comedian across the face. Less than an hour later, Will would then win the Oscar for Best Actor, and in his speech he would apologize for his fellow nominees in the Academy. A day later, he issued a public apology to Rock, and sometime after that, he announced his resignation from the Academy. The Academy would then come out with a statement and said the 94th Oscars was meant to be a celebration of many individuals in our community who did incredible work this past year. However, those moments were overshadowed by the unacceptable and harmful behavior we saw Mr. Smith exhibit on stage. The actor then went on to accept the decision, which means he will no longer be able to attend this year's ceremony as a presenter, as in the tradition of the Oscars. While the decision to expel a member isn't unheard of before it happened to Smith, there have actually been a handful of members expelled by the Academy. Coming at number 9, we have Paris Hilton. While Paris Hilton tends to be in attendance at almost every party, fashion show, and awards, even Paris Hilton reportedly was banned from attending the Oscars since 2008. And when the socialite first heard of the news, she surely wasn't happy about it, and she was actually devastated that she couldn't attend the prestigious award event. With a source claiming that Paris cried a lot when she found out she was banned from the Oscars, it would also be noticed that Paris was desperate to be taken seriously as an actress, and she hoped she would be able to network with the film bods. Word on the block is Paris even spent $2 million on a dress for the ceremony back in 2008 before she heard about her ban, which left her feeling so embarrassed to attend the Oscars after show parties, and even considering going in disguise due to her ban. She was even tempted to go to the parties afterwards but wear her trademark wig to save her dignity. Said that Paris would even find herself being snubbed from the event in a bid to prevent the event from turning into a down market scrum. Hi my little peaches, are you liking this video so far? If so, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Coming at number 8, we have Miley Cyrus. Have you ever noticed that Miley Cyrus has been pretty much missing from all the award shows lately? Well, back in 2020, Miley would post a clip of herself from the 2013 MTV EMAs where she would be shown taking out a pre-roll from her black Chanel clutch and lighting it up on stage in the middle of her presenting duties. While sporting a bodysuit and a furry coat, she then oozed an effort amount of cool when she did the unthinkable during the show. With Miley taking a clip and posting it, she would caption the clip by saying, "Wonder why I'm not invited to award shows anymore." While the star hasn't chosen to elaborate on the video, it certainly isn't really clear if she was joking or not, but it has been some time that we've seen Miley hitting up the award shows. and it looked like her celebrity friends, like designer Alexander Wang, found the dig humorous enough. He even told the wild child to never change. Even Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Lisa would chime in to let Miley know if she ever had an award show, she would have the singer there. Whether it's true or not, we love a good Miley presenting the celebrations, as she always comes out to slay. Number 7, Kevin Spacey. After allegations made by more than 30 different individuals that Kevin Spacey had made 30 unwanted advances towards younger men, in 2017 BuzzFeed would publish allegations made by Anthony Rapp that said Kevin had made some unwanted advances towards Rapp when he was only 14. And since, more than 30 people have come forward with their own allegations against Spacey, with accounts ranging from a number of different allegations. Bringing the lawsuit to light would stand as part of a larger movement to stand up against all forms of violence. Rapp claimed that Spacey climbed on top of him at a party in New York City when he was younger. Kevin would then gladly deny Rapp's allegations, and his lawyers would create this story, in which in a large part of the made-up story would claim that Anthony was jealous of Spacey's career in the entertainment industry. And then, when more allegations started to come forward, Kevin would finally admit to his actions, but said it was okay because he was gay. Since the allegations have come forward, Kevin is now blacklisted from Hollywood, and he will no longer be allowed to attend any award shows anytime soon. Number 6, Adam Kimmel. Cinematographer Adam Kimmel is known for his work on Lars in The Real Girl. However, in 2021, Adam would find himself being expelled from the Academy following the emergence of his history after allegations came forward about his misconduct with women. Adam had been arrested twice. Both times, the allegations involved a younger female. In 2003, when he was 43 years old, he would plead guilty to making unwanted advances to a girl in New York who was around 15 and 16 years old. In 2010, Kimmel would be arrested again in Connecticut for 4th degree of unwanted advancements involving a younger person and failure to register as a SO. Due to the crimes and the hurt he inflicted on a handful of younger women, the Academy saw fit to expel Adam from the Academy and permanently place a ban on him from attending any Academy Awards. While the Academy strives on protecting the safety of their performers and guests, they couldn't guarantee that Adam wouldn't be a threat to any female in the audience, and they couldn't justify his actions and decided that he should be banned from attending the ceremonies going forward. But the fact that his crimes happened between 2003 and 2010 and the Academy still allowed him to attend the ceremonies until 2021 is actually pretty messed up. Number 5, Kevin Hart. After an old controversy from 2018 continued to dominate the headlines in 2019 after he was announced as being the host for the 2019 Academy Awards, comedian Kevin Hart publicly stepped down from his gig when a series of old homophobic tweets resurfaced. Kevin's anti-gay ideology wasn't exactly a secret before, as he devoted part of his 2010 stand-up special to describe his terror that his son would turn out to be gay and his intention to prevent it however he could. And after that year, you think Hollywood might have done some Twitter search before naming its host. In Kevin's response just hours before stepping down, he would not apologize, and he would say in a video, "Guys, I'm almost 40 years old. If you don't believe that people change, grow, evolve as they get older, I don't know what to tell you. I want to hold people in a position where they always have to justify or explain the past. Then you do. I'm the wrong guy, man. I'm in a great place, a great mature place, where all I do is spread positivity." 6 hours later though, he would reconsider and he would finally step down from his hosting gig, and then he would make a formal apology to the LGBTQ community, and you probably won't see him attending any award shows anytime soon. Number 4, Pamela Anderson. Pamela Anderson is another woman banned from the Oscars like Paris Hilton in an attempt for the award ceremony to keep things more classy. Except everything about Pamela Anderson is actually pretty classy except for her R-rated tape. Sources would confirm that Pamela would be banned from attending the ceremony so the Academy officials could prevent the evening from turning into a downmarket scrum. The inside source would also continue to say that the Academy plans to focus more on those people who have worked in the film industry for years, not people who were merely celebrities in other areas. But Pamela has been in the industry since 1991, when she landed her most major acting gig on Baywatch and gave us the iconic red bathing suit look. So to say that she couldn't be at the Oscars because she wasn't in the film industry for years would just be absurd. But then other sources would come forward to say the decision to ban certain stars is down to the fact that Hollywood's Kodak Theater holds less than half the capacity of the previous venue, and even high-profile stars are struggling to secure tickets to the event. But if that's the real case, why would the Academy even think it was a good idea to downgrade their venue to one of the biggest award shows of the year. Number 3. Carmine Carditi. The Godfather star Carmine Carditi was banned from the Oscars after he was summoned by the FBI. While Carmine's strength as an actor got him steady work for many years, eventually earning him his membership in the Academy. As a member, he was actually pretty inappropriate to viewers. Eventually, trouble would come to town when Russell Prague visited Chicago and was introduced to Carmine by another member of the Godfather Part 3 cast. When Carmine mentioned that he was able to watch screeners for the latest film, Russell was somehow able to talk him into sharing these screeners with him. As part of Carmine's agreement with the Academy, this was not allowed. Even so, Carmine decided to still go along with it as he wanted to share his privileged position with a friend. This would work out well for time, but things quickly began to spiral out of control when the FBI got involved. Rather than a harmless movie fan Carmine thought Russell was, he actually turned out to be one of the most notorious film pirates in the country. Instead of watching the movies, he would copy them and distribute them to the internet. With both men being taken in by the FBI, Carmine would find himself being sued by Columbia Pictures and Warner Brothers, and he would become the first person ever banned from the Academy. Number 2. Roman Polanski. Movie director Roman Polanski would end up being expelled from the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts, and Sciences over charges of unwanted advances on younger women. Back in August of 2020, Roman would lose a court bid to be reinstated as a member. Roman, who won an Oscar in 2003, would be banned by the Academy in May 2018 because of a long-standing criminal case, which dates all the way back to 1977. The director then argued in a civil lawsuit he was denied by the Academy when it decided to expel him under a code of conduct drawn up in response to his unwanted advancement misconduct allegations against dozens in the entertainment industry. The Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Mary H. Strobel wrote in a ruling that Polanski was given the opportunity to present any evidence he deemed relevant to the Academy, including a lengthy brief from his attorney and a video statement. While Roman has continued to deny his misconduct, he did win an Oscar in 2003 for The Pianist. But I think we were all pleased when the court confirmed that the Academy's procedure to ban him from the awards ceremony was both fair and reasonable. And coming in at number 1 today, we have Britney Spears. Britney Spears has found herself being barred from the Oscars since 2005, and since she's even been banned from attending all the celebrity-filled pre-Oscar parties. While Britney has been desperate to dress up and snare an invite to one of several glitzy bashes that are happening across LA, she's been met with a stony and embarrassing silence from the organizers. Britney is definitely still a big name in Hollywood, and a lot of people in town know her for all the wrong reasons. While the Oscars has chosen to snub her from pretty much anything, they claim it's because she's a car crash waiting to happen, and organizers don't want to take the risk of her showing up and creating a scene. With every celebrity battling to secure the most high-profile guest, Britney is being seen as a gamble no one wants to take, with one source saying her presence at any party would instantly generate lots of publicity, but while it's tempting to send out an invite, it's a hassle they don't really want. There's also still been a mounting concern among fellow A-listers of Britney's mental health, and they feel like the parties would still be too much for Britney, and her fragile state might just tip her over the edge if she was to attend. While Britney was definitely devastated over the snubs, she definitely has a lot to look forward to as she's back in the studio creating some major bangers.
In at number 10, Will Smith. As of now, Will Smith has not been stripped of his Oscar officially after he received it just a few nights ago, but considering his disrespectful conduct, many are thinking the Academy will punish him for the action. After slapping Chris Rock and interrupting the broadcast, Will Smith won Actor of the Year for his performance in King Richard. While giving his acceptance speech, he took the time to apologize to the Academy and his fellow nominees while crying. He blamed his actions on the love he has for his wife, Jada. Since he still won the award and was treated like nothing happened following the slap, many people thought nothing would happen. But after 2017, the Oscars introduced a new code of conduct in the context of the Me Too movement. In a letter sent to members at the time, CEO Don Hudson stated, quote, "Academy membership is a privilege offered to only a select few within the global community of filmmakers." Adding, quote, "There is no place in the Academy for people who misuse their status, power, or influence in a manner that violates recognized standards of decency." And if you really think about what Will Smith did that night, it was using his privilege to do something that would have gotten any other person arrested. After the slap, the Academy posted a statement that they condemn all violence and announced that they launched a formal investigation into the incident. It's been rumored that his Oscar will not be taken away, but he may be suspended from the Academy. And at number 9, Marlon Brando. Along with the 2022 Oscars, the 1973 Oscars is also remembered for a shocking event. That year, Francis Ford Coppola's mob crime drama The Godfather was nominated for 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Marlon Brando. When it was announced that Brando had won the prestigious award, he did not come to the stage to accept it. Rather, a woman named Sacheen Littlefeather came on stage on his behalf. She said that Brando, quote, very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award, and the reason for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry. In the middle of the speech, Littlefeather was booed for her words, and the audience was not accepting of her words. It was also reported that 6 security guards had to hold back John Wayne because he was so angered by what she was saying. In at number 8, Hondo. In 1954, the movie Hondo was nominated for Best Story, which has now been renamed to Best Original Screenplay. The John Wayne Western movie was favored to win, but the nomination was later revoked after the Academy discovered the script for the movie was not original. Rather, it was based on an already existing short story called The Gift of Cochus. This is obviously against the rules, as the nominees in this category must create an original story. In at number 7, Tuba Atlantic. 2010 film Tuba Atlantic was another movie that had its nomination revoked after it broke the Oscars rules. The film was a Norwegian short film about a 70-year-old man who only had 6 days to live and spends that time reconciling with his estranged family. It was nominated for Best Live-Action Short Film in 2012, and it was a huge step for the Norwegian film industry. However, the nomination for this movie was revoked after the Academy discovered that the film was already shown on Norwegian television before it was released in theaters, which is a huge no-no for the Academy, which is purely for movies released in theaters. After investigation, it was determined that the producers of the film did not disclose that the movie was shown on TV beforehand, even though they were directly asked if it had been in the submission forms, and the producers checked no on these forms. After the nomination was taken away, one of the filmmakers claimed that they were shocked over the decision, as they apparently knew about the TV broadcast and were fine with it. The filmmakers continued that they believed there were exceptions to the rule if the film was shown to film students. The Oscars denied knowing anything beforehand. And at number 6, 13 Hours. In 2017, 13 Hours earned a single Oscar nomination for Best Achievement in Sound Mixing, with 4 members of the sound team, Gary Summers, Jeffrey J. Habush, Mac Ruth, and Greg P. Russell getting acknowledged for their work. However, just one day before the award show was to be held, the Academy announced that they were rescinding the nomination for Greg P. Russell for breaking the rules. He was accused of telephone lobbying, which is essentially begging for votes from the members of the Academy. The Oscars revealed their decision in a statement, saying in part, quote, upon recommendation by the Sound Branch Executive Committee, the Academy's Board of Governors voted to rescind the sound mixing nomination for Greg P. Russell from 13 Hours. The decision was prompted by the discovery that Russell had called his fellow members of the Sound Branch during the nominations phase to make them aware of his work on the film, in direct violation of a campaign regulation that prohibits telephone lobbying. Halfway at number 5, Young Americans. The film Young Americans won the Academy Award for Best Documentary in 1969, and everyone involved in the film was thrilled. But a month after receiving the award, it was stripped away for violating the Oscars' terms. So the movie was actually made in 1967, and it was first shown in theaters in October of 1967, not making it eligible for the 1969 Oscars, where it won. After the award was taken away, it was given to the runner-up called Journey into Self. As of now, Young Americans is the only movie in Academy history to receive an Oscar, then have it taken away after the ceremony. And at number 4, Alone Yet Not Alone. In 2014, the main song from the Christian film Alone Yet Not Alone was nominated for Best Original Song, but the nomination was revoked 2 weeks later. This was because the award show discovered that Bruce Brunton, the song's composer and an executive committee member of the Academy's music branch, had emailed members of the Academy to try and butter them up for votes. The Academy posted a statement writing that Broughton, quote, had emailed some of the other 239 members of the branch to make them aware of his submission during the nominations voting period, which goes against Academy rules. The Academy president at the time continued that even though it was most likely well-intentioned, promoting a member's own Oscar nomination to their colleagues is an unfair advantage. After the decision, he told The Hollywood Reporter, quote, I'm devastated. I indulged in the simplest grassroots campaign, and it went against me when the song started to get attention. I got taken down by competition that had months of promotion, and advertising behind them. I simply ask people to find the song and consider it. In at number 3, The Circus. At the very first ever Academy Awards in 1929, the award show decided to revoke Charlie Chaplin's awards to make the night more fair for everyone. At that year's awards, he was nominated for Best Actor, Best Director for a Comedy, Best Writer, and Outstanding Picture for his work in the film The Circus. Since he was such a legendary talent, the Academy believed there was a high chance that he might win all the awards, so they decided to create an honorary award just for him, combining all of his awards into one. This new award combined the awards for Best Writing, Directing, and Producing in the film. In at number 2, Dudley Nichols. Some celebrities are stripped of their Oscars awards or nominations, but the first person to ever reject receiving the award was screenwriter Dudley Nichols, who won for Best Screenplay in the 1935 film The Informer. The movie was set during the Irish War of Independence and was adapted from the novel of the same name by Liam O'Flaherty. The movie won multiple awards, with the director John Ford going on to win Best Director, with Nichols winning Best Screenplay. After rejecting the award, Nichols revealed he did so to support an ongoing writer's strike in Hollywood. And finally, number 1, George C. Scott. Another celebrity who refused to accept their Oscar win was actor George C. Scott. He won the award for Best Actor in 1971 for acting in the film Patton. He announced ahead of time that he would not be attending the awards because he didn't approve of the snooty event. He told press that the show was a quote 2-hour meat parade, calling it quote barbaric and innately corrupt. Even though he trashed the show multiple times beforehand, the Oscars still decided to honor him with the award for his work in the film. The film's producer Frank McCarthy accepted the award on his behalf. McCarthy then returned it to the Academy the following day, as Scott had requested.